I will introduce our next speaker. Damon Rees Damon begged me not to read all of the information in his profile in the program, so I won't. But he is a business leader focused on customer centricity, culture, digital enablement and innovation, with more than 20 years of experience driving transformational change, organisational performance and better customer outcomes. And Damon's keynote is talking about better as usual, institutional resilience from customer service to crisis recovery, and we're very thankful that Damon is sponsored by AWS today. Damon, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Damon. I join you from, I live on Wongal land in the inner west of Sydney, grew up in the Blue Mountains, just an hour west of Sydney. It's a real privilege to be here. I'm actually not going to talk about Better As Usual at all. Better As Usual is my 6 months into the third chapter of my career. First chapter of my career was sort of banking and corporate. The second chapter of my career was public service, and I'd really like to talk about that. And every time I'm in the room with fellow public servants, I just like to say thank you, because I think the work that you all do is profoundly important, profoundly impactful, and not always appreciated to the extent that it should be by people outside of the public service. So thank you for everything you do. I'd like to talk a little bit about Service New South Wales. I had two roles in the public service. The first was to lead digital and technology for the New South Wales government. The second was as the Chief Executive of Service New South Wales for the last 5 years. And we were having a conference around resilience. There's a couple of stories I think we can really bring out and share learnings and insights from when it comes to Service New South Wales. I'll talk a little bit about the why, the what, and the how to give you a sense of Service New South Wales, and then we can touch a little bit on resilience, and we'll have time for questions. So I think you can pop them into... Where am I? Oh, I'm in the wrong spot. Do you want me to start again? No. Got it. But before I get into that, we've got a little video. Excuse some of the sort of effervescent sort of language, but it was a 10-year birthday celebration for Service New South Wales. But for anyone that hasn't interacted with Service New South Wales, it might just give you a little bit of a sense as to what we're talking about before we go forward. So can we get that video played, please?
Service New South Wales has come a long way in 10 years, and today it is one of the most trusted and widely respected government organisations in the world. It's been an amazing journey of cultural and digital transformation. It started with a consolidation of government shopfronts, websites and contact centres, but has moved far beyond bricks and mortar into cutting-edge services like digital identity, concierge support for business and personalised disaster recovery assistance. In 2016, the Service New South Wales app was launched. At the time, its main functionality was to provide service centre wait times to customers, but had limited uptake. In 2019, we upgraded the app to prepare us for the decade ahead. Also in that year, we launched the New South Wales Digital Driver Licence. In 2020, during the bushfires and the pandemic, our amazing frontline staff quickly pivoted to deliver complex services to people in desperate need. We released a QR code for venue check-ins, the world-leading Dine and Discover vouchers, and integrated COVID vaccination certificates into the app. Service New South Wales has been on the front line supporting our state during bushfires, floods, a once-in-a-century pandemic, and several major cyber breaches. Today, over 85% of the adult population has the Service New South Wales app on their phone, giving them access to digital licences, voucher programs, rebates, and so much more. More than 1,000 New South Wales government transactions are offered at one convenient location, with more than 85% of these transactions available digitally, and at 114 service centres across the state. Remarkably, Service New South Wales maintains a customer satisfaction of 96%. Service New South Wales and the Department of Customer Service represent a monumental shift in the way government services are delivered, putting our customers at the centre, listening to their needs, and responding in ways that changed the game. We have now established a platform for truly customer-centric, personalised service delivery, positioning New South Wales as a global leader in the digital age. Whilst we are leading the way on technology, it's our people and our customers that are at the heart of everything we do. Happy anniversary, Service New South Wales.
So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a sense as to what we're about. Standing invitation, anyone finds yourself sort of over our side of the ditch, please let me know and we can arrange a few visits. It's really special, but I'd like to maybe go back 10 years and sort of start with the why. And for us, this was really about enabling our state government to have the greatest impact that it could have and to fulfil its purpose as a state government. And our view was actually that ability is underpinned by a couple of things. It's underpinned by trust in government and trust from communities and trust from the people that we're here to serve. And it's underpinned by the ability and the willingness of people to engage with government services. And we recognised that actually tightly correlated with that is the experience you have with government. When we looked at the experience that people have in their lives in Australia, and if you ranked them from best to worst, government was right at the bottom of that list. And if you looked within government and ranked all of the governments in Australia from best to worst, I think we were second last in New South Wales and only ahead of our Commonwealth counterparts, which was not really a whole lot to crow about at that time. And so we thought this is something that needs to change. If we don't change this, that gap between the experiences that people have in every other part of their lives and the expectations they bring to government is only going to get wider and wider, and that's going to continue to erode the trust in our institution. So that's why Service New South Wales was created. How do we move from an agency-centric experience of government? How do we move from an experience of government that really doesn't think about the experience or prioritise the experience or think about the people that we're interacting with as customers and through that lens? How do we turn that on its head? That's where Service New South Wales was created. We started as a new agency in government for really two reasons. One was we were trying to introduce a different experience of government, a customer-centric experience of the whole of New South Wales government, not just a better experience of individual pieces. But the second, and I think the most important, was culturally. We wanted to create a very, very different culture that underpinned that experience that people had of New South Wales. And our view was actually we didn't see that existing in government anywhere, and we wanted to start that again, build the DNA of the organisation from scratch. That new organisation, drew people in from all sort of walks of life and all sorts of professions, from hospitality, from the airlines, from the banks. Importantly, though, to this day, about half of the frontline team of Service New South Wales also came from other parts of government. Many of them came from the parts of government that people, referred to disparagingly and contrasted with what they experienced through Service New South Wales. So it's not a story about actually none of the people that we have are the right people. It is a great example of if we can change the conditions around our people, the environment around our people. If we can change what really matters as government, then actually we really do enable a lot of the people that we have today to blossom and to be part of that journey. So we started as one service centre 10 years ago in a little town called Kiama, for anyone that knows New South Wales, a couple of hours south. Got the concept right, showed what a really, really different experience of government would look like, and then just learnt continuously and iteratively to the point where we now have 114 of those wonderful service centres through the state. We have mobile service centres, we have contact centres, we have a digital experience that's getting richer and richer, and a fabulous mobile experience. People often talk about Service New South Wales as an example of transformation. I tend to think of it as yes, but 20% transformation and then just this relentless learning and evolution and execution to keep building on that. If you think about what sort of sits behind the scenes, often we sort of look at the outcomes that organisations achieve and we think, oh, we like that and we don't like that, or gee, we like that this organisation's sustaining these different things. I certainly found through my time at Service New South Wales, in order to achieve those outcomes and to keep sustaining them, we really had to obsess around the enablers of that. And for us, it boiled down to a handful of things which we spoke about as our leadership obsessions. The first, obviously, I hope, would be customer centricity. But a lot of organisations talk about it. For Service New South Wales, it was woven into every single conversation. Every conversation was brought back to, what is this going to mean for our customer? What's this going to mean in the context of their life? And it really did permeate our decision making in a very, very rich way. It got us thinking up above and beyond ourselves. If we were having conversation around risks that we were taking on, it wasn't contained to what does this mean for us as leaders or Service New South Wales as an agency. What are the implications on our customers if we don't take this risk? In order for us to reduce our risk, do we transfer an even greater risk onto our customers? So it was, customer centricity, I think, was brought to life in a way that's deeper and more pervasive than any organisation I've ever had the opportunity to be part of. There's a range of different things that we did there, but I think at its core, it was a very flat, very open, very high trust organisation, and so that voice of customer constantly washed through the organisation. We had a culture of really trying to empower our team. My view was always that the best person in our organisation, we were a team of about 5,000 or 6,000 by the end, the very best person to make the best decision possible for our customer is not me, it's the person that's closest to that customer. It's typically the person in front of that customer. And so we were constantly working to say, how do we empower and enable that culture through our organisation and the team of our organisation? We had programs like Service Time that enabled anyone in the organisation, including myself or our stakeholders, to not just go and experience the front line and to spend time with our front line, but to put the wardrobe on, receive some training and actually go and spend a day serving customers. And so it made sure that empathy and that connection and understanding wove right through our organisation. And then we started bringing friends from Treasury and friends from other partner agencies. And I think it was one of the things that we were really able to provide a value to the sector, was a way to connect all of the great work that was happening across the sector with the true outcome and the person and the family and the community that were at the end of it. So customer centricity, absolutely key, and we nurtured it every single day. Hand in hand with that, we focused on our people. We had a belief that said we can't be great for our customers if we're not great for our people. We originally focused on how do we make this a great place to work. We pushed ourselves further than that after a while and said, actually, how is your life better with Service New South Wales as part of it than without it? How does Service New South Wales be a place that is enriching and rewarding and full of purpose, a place that gives you both personal and professional development, a place where you can be surrounded by rich relationships and where you have the support when you need it. And I think everything that we see culturally, everything our customers experience, I think is intertwined with that that commitment, that genuine commitment we had to our people. Service New South Wales has the highest engagement scores of any large agency in New South Wales public sector, and was actually the first organisation from the public sector to be recognised as a great place to work a number of years ago. The third thing we focused on was our agility, and I don't want to use the language agile and have people sort of suddenly make automatic connections to methodologies and religious wars and stand-ups and post-it notes, but agility at an organisational level in the truest sense. Our reflection was that it's wonderful that our customers receive this one-stop shop of New South Wales government, but if you look at that from the inside out, we're in every agency's supply chain. Every one of those agencies has ministers that are trying to get things done. They've got commitments, they've got policies, they've got announceables. If we are not, by some measure, the most nimble and adaptable part of government, then we're very quickly going to become the bottleneck of government. If we're the bottleneck, then that would put a ceiling on our ability to keep growing our impact and our value for our customers. So agility for us was an absolute obsession. It forced us to rethink many aspects of who we were and how we worked and how we did what we did. We had to pull apart old architectures. We needed to construct new ways of working. We needed to build new skills in our organisation. But a critical part of what's enabled us to continue to grow our value, and as we get to resilience in a moment, a critical part of what enabled us to step in to spaces that we never anticipated being in, but make a real difference. We focused on partnerships. So Service New South Wales in the early days had wonderful customer satisfaction, but didn't have a great relationship with other parts of government. There was a real tension there that was ultimately getting in the way of our ability together to not just deliver a great customer experience, but to deliver a great customer outcome, to work through the processes and the policies and the handoffs end to end to make sure that every part of that came together as well as it could for the outcomes of the people that we were here to serve. Our partnership satisfaction, I think when we first surveyed it, customers 97%, but partners were 13% from memory. That now sits at about 80%. We've had to really change the way we do that. But I think it's now become part of the secret sauce. There's this wonderful high trust, collaborative relationship between Service New South Wales and the many parts of government that we partner with. We actually do very, very little completely on our own and independently. Almost everything we do is done in partnership and on behalf of another part of government that will ultimately own the policy responsibility and the outcome. So that partnership is absolutely critical for us. Digital capability. You know, when I joined 5.5 years ago, we looked a little bit like most other parts of government in New South Wales. We had a lot of passion and energy, which was the Service New South Wales way, but we had a small tech team that designed stuff up and spec'd it up and took it out to through procurement. We had a partner that designed it, one that built it, one that ran it. We couldn't get out of first gear. We couldn't do, many things at the same time. We couldn't move at the pace that our customers and government needed us to. And so we set on a journey to say, actually, how do we rebuild and rethink this as a core capability of our organisation? How do we change our minds so that the person that designs and builds and owns the experience that our customers have digitally, we recognise that just as core as the person that greets you when you walk into a service centre and we welcome you. And so these days, the digital team in Service New South Wales sits at 500 or 600 people. It's all built on lean, agile, cross-functional teams. It works at a pace like I haven't seen before, and it's constantly pushing itself further. It's a key part of what's enabled us to do the things that we've done. So I might sort of then bring us to a conversation around resilience, but I didn't want to start with resilience without giving you a sense as to kind of where we started and what sits behind the curtain, if you like. Because we started very much focused on the transactional services of government. That was our language. We're going to make it easier. We're going to give you a one-stop shop on the transactional services of government, registering this, renewing this, paying for that. And we're going to focus on the individuals first. Business communities were in our thinking, but they weren't the priority. So we then found ourselves in 2019. From memory, we were coming in, or maybe it was 2018. The times start to blur. Bushfires were ravaging New South Wales. Really, really traumatic for families, for communities, for the state. And as the firefighters started to get on top of the fires themselves, you were left with this devastation of communities and the question of how do you help individuals, businesses, communities recover? Our culture, meant that we automatically put our hand up. Look, is there anything we can do? We can see our own teammates are impacted by this. We can see our customers are impacted by this. The communities that we're in are impacted. And we'd had no role in disaster recovery up to then, but we said, look, can we help? And there was a cautious sort of, look, there's a spare table over here in the recovery centre. Come in and all right, see what you can do. One of the great things about the bushfires was everyone wanted to help. Everyone wanted to help. It was really, really humbling. But if you're a customer that's just lost your home or sometimes a loved one, it was overwhelming. The situation you're in was overwhelming. Your ability to navigate that support and work out where to start, it was just beyond many of our customers. And so, almost overnight, we said, well, actually, we think that's where we can help. Let's create this customer care service. Let's make it a relationship managed service so that you can deal with the same person, over the days, weeks, months that you're going to need as you go through your own sort of personal journey of recovery. Our culture got us automatically stepping into that. Our capability in our front line meant we just went in there without any playbook, without any rules, without any policies. We have this problem-solving muscle, this incredible empathy and incredible care in our front line. That's where we started. And then we raced behind the scenes to industrialise it. Right, how do we get the systems in place so when Damon's not here and Pia calls looking for Damon, there's someone else that can smoothly handle it. How do we start to bring in the digital experience for those customers that don't want to or aren't able to get themselves to a recovery centre? And so that's where that digital capability and that agility of the organisation kicked in. And so we found through these capabilities that we had, these muscles that we've been building for years, we were able to step into these spaces. When we first did it for bushfires, we we were kind of on the edge. Fast forward a few crises later for Northern Rivers floods. Service New South Wales is the primary way that government kind of steps in and not just supports customers now with others. It's not only Service New South Wales, not only supports customers, but we've become the primary way that government delivers outbound support. So for our first 7 years, we just really received money on behalf of government through fees and fines and all that sort of thing, to the tune of about $7 billion a year. The last couple of years, we suddenly had to turn that around the other way. We paid out about $14 billion worth of support in the form of grants for bushfires, for COVID, for floods, for droughts, for mice plagues. The list goes on. None of that would have been possible if we hadn't had this cultural willingness to kind of step into the grey and the unknown and the space, and if we hadn't had the agility to back ourselves in and the digital capability to really industrialise behind the scenes and bring scale. So, people used to say to me, come on, Damon, you're running this organisation, what's the vision? Where will Service New South Wales be in 5 years' time? And I just used to shrug. My answer, annoyingly for everyone, was, look, guys, we'll be wherever our customers and our state and our government need us to be. But what we are going to focus on is making sure we have the adaptability, we have the internal resilience, we have the capability to be able to adapt as an organisation and as a team and go where people need us. And that's, I think that's where we are today. I finished up after 5 years at the end of last year, and I can only see unlimited potential ahead for an organisation like Service New South Wales. I think all of you, in public service can see that there is, and I suspect always will be, an unlimited amount to be done. But what I love is the fact that Service New South Wales has those core attributes, those core capabilities, that adaptability that is enabling us to continue to step in. I think the final thing I'll touch on, and then we'll go to some questions. I'd love to open up the conversation and take it wherever's interesting to you. But in order for us to play that ever more impactful role in the resilience of our state, we needed that same focus on our teams and our organisation and ourselves, individually and as leaders. And so making sure for anyone that's in a situation where you're trying to lead your team, either into difficult times, or for many of us coming out of COVID, into a strangely different difficult time, there is that piece around how do you really look after yourself just as much as you're looking after your teams. Anyway, I'll just pause there. I'd love to see if there's any questions and take the conversation anywhere you'd like to go.
Thanks. Thanks, Damon. So we've got some questions on Slido. Can we put those up? Oh.
Good timing. Look at
Good
that.
timing, yeah. So I'll read the first one. Who provides the software for Service New South Wales? Very practical question.
So it's a great question. So we largely, our digital experiences are built internally within Service New South Wales. We have lean, agile, cross-functional product teams with product management, design and engineering. We tend to build those solutions using full stack techniques. We leverage cloud capabilities for us largely for the elasticity and the agility that used as programmatic infrastructure that provides us with. We have a very strong focus on DevOps and continuous development. We've got very strong focus on developer and development productivity enabled through a range of digital platforms.
Thanks. So we've got we've got questions moving up and down here. How do you promote a culture of allowing your teams and people to start somewhere and possibly fail and continue to grow and iterate?
So I remember when I joined government from Macquarie, and it was my first sort of week in government, I think, and sort of wizened sort of government folks sort of sat me down and said, look, we've got to tell you sort of how it works here, right? And they said, look, you got to forget all of that fast fail, rubbish that you've kind of learnt in the private sector, because we're government, we don't take risk, and we can't fail. One of my responsibilities at the time in my first role was investment assurance for government. It was set up because government had had a program that had run $500 million over budget and ended up landing 6 years later, delivering something that didn't do the job and no one wanted. And so my view was, guys, we need to reframe the way we think about this. Actually, learning and experimenting is about reducing the risks we can't take, rather than sort of taking risk. If we've got an idea and we spend a month and we spend a few $1,000s and we test it, we realise it's a bad idea and we stop. That's not an interesting headline for anyone to read. But if we don't do that experiment and we roll forward on the wrong path for 5 years, waste $500 million worth of taxpayer money, and deliver a rubbish outcome, well, that should be a headline, and that's a disaster. So I think reframing some of these conversations would be my view. One of the secretaries I work for, people talk about government being risk averse, and Martin said, we're not risk averse, we're risk blind, and so I think really trying to open up the conversation and see it through a different lens would be my little thought there.
Cool. Right, so now a question about governance. What kind of governance enabled that transformation you were talking about?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer this question neatly. It's a great question. So we had very strong sponsorship in Service New South Wales, and I think if you think about the things that helped Service New South Wales start versus continue, those things move around over time. But certainly I think there is a very important role of sponsorship to get going on something like this. Governance, probably the key aspects of governance that would be worth flagging. One is we really deliberately tried to keep things small. Our view was, we were most successful when we had 6 months to do something. If we were given, 2 years to do something, very quickly, we let ourselves overcomplicate things and we were less successful. So we had a very deliberate focus on moving quick, maintaining constant momentum. We delivered everything in partnership with other agencies. So when we come to governance, very strong focus on how do we build that governance together so that, in combination with transport or births, deaths and marriages, whoever it may be, we can really jointly govern these initiatives to ensure that they're win-win, that they're good for customers, that they help the partner agency be successful and achieve their policy outcomes, and that they are coherent and work within this overall experience of government that Service New South Wales is trying to do. I think my final comment on governance, this is not a complete or neat answer, but we were the opposite of a hierarchical organisation. Incredibly flat. Everyone had a voice. And we were, we actively sought out and listened for the voices that were different and the voices that were most close to our customer.
Thanks, Damon. So this is what I'm particularly interested in. How do you avoid failure demand? So, you can't, you've got phone lines jammed with repeat calls because you're actually not making it easy for people to fix things themselves.
Look, our view is there's a huge payoff. If you look at, many organisations, the amount they're spending to keep, resolving the work that failing to do something right the first time creates. I think the hard thing is how do you create the space to get ahead of it, and then I think it very quickly becomes a self-funding proposition. In our organisation, that was just about managing our priorities. We'll take a little bit of short-term pain. We will pull capacity and make capacity available to sort this stuff out, and a belief that actually if we get the outcome right for the customer the first time, all of that work is never going to exist downstream. There's good sort of research out there sort of around the escalating cost of not getting something right the first time. But for us, it's a great example of things like great customer service and great value and being lean and efficient. Like these aren't sort of in tug of war with each other. I think there's often a false dilemma that we're confronted with in government, which is, do you want it good or do you want it cheap? I think in areas like this, the answer is the same. Actually, if we can do it really well, and if we can do it really well the first time, then that is also the cheapest possible way for us to do something. So I think it starts with a mindset and a belief, and then it starts with some good old-fashioned reallocation of your capacity and your focus to enable you to start to break the back of the things that are clogging up your organisation.
Right, so I think we'll take another couple of questions. So if you look on Slido and there's a question you really like, give it an upvote now. I see we actually have a hand up in the room. Do we have a microphone?
Yeah. So Damon, this is a question about digital equity and trust in government. So you've painted a very nice picture of one place, one source of the truth, 85% uptake, the one place to go. What about the challenges of people who either don't have access to digital, so that's 15% maybe of the 85%, or people who don't like the idea of my ID and my COVID pass and all my data? Are we leaving people behind, and how have you solved that?
Yeah, great question, and really close to our heart. Former teammate of ours, Kylie, I think sort of quipped this for the first time, which is, hey folks, it's in the name. We're Service New South Wales, not Service Some of New South Wales, and so for us, that was right in the core of our culture. How do we make it easy? How do we help every last person and now every last business in New South Wales? So there's a whole, it's a long conversation around all the things that we've done and are doing, and importantly, a constant focus on working out what we could do more. Yeah, the first thing I'd say is, so we're an omni-channel construct, right? You'll never hear language from us around digital first. Well, not from me anyway. And you'll never hear language about drive to digital. We always put the customer above that. How do we make it easy for our customer to get the outcome they need? Our customers are diverse, so for some people, the easiest way for them is on the couch on their phone at home. For some people, the easiest way for the same thing is with one of our teammates in a service centre. We have those 114 service centres. We have mobile service centres that take everything we can do in a service centre into even more remote and regional communities, and can drop all of that into, crisis-impacted areas. In our service centres, we have digital kiosks. We have team members that can help you. So for people that the gap is different for different people. For some, it's I just literally don't have access, right? So we consider our footprint across the state as as a bit of a bridge to kind of minimise that digital divide for communities that's around access. For some, it's I have access but I don't have confidence. Well, that's where our teammates kick in, and actually some of my favourite conversations to overhear in service centres where our teammates helping, customers set up their first ever email account and, explaining to them about things that had nothing at all to do with us, but we're helping them build the confidence and the engagement in digital. So exclusion can be about digital, it can be about accessibility. I think just last year, we introduced Quiet Hour. So our service centres are energising, right? But if you have autism, that's not a positive. Actually, it can be the difference between whether you can pass your learner's exam or not. And so we created sort of a low sensory experience called Quiet Hour that was better suited to the needs of some of our customers. We're constantly working to say how are we more welcoming and inclusive and understanding of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, customer base. The job is never ever done, and I think Service New South Wales sees ourselves as, playing a key role in trying to fight that sort of, that unconscious exclusion that can creep in this kind of, what tends to be sort of a digital first mindset that's permeating lots of places.
Okay, so final question is the one up on the top there. How do you feel about using the term customer for the people who use Service New South Wales? Is it more accurate than Australian, but does it sound a bit commercial?
Yeah, I love it. So Service New South Wales, about 3 years ago now, became part of a bigger push called the Department of Customer Service. Yeah, the language was introduced in in New South Wales government, 11, 12 years ago, really deliberately, and it was jarring and uncomfortable language for many parts of government, and that raged for years and years. That's not a customer, that's my regulated entity, or they're not a customer, they're a voter or a citizen or a prisoner of Her Majesty's, kind of whatever the language is. But the language was helpful, right? Because we all know what good customer experience looks like and feels like. We all know when we've had it. We all know when we haven't had it, and so we used it as a tool to shift culture and to create a public service that thought about the person that we were here to serve, thought about the impact of serving or not serving that person, thought about the quality in which we did or didn't, thought about the whole life of the person and the impacts of our engagement on that person and the community. It was a cultural lever. And what I would say, I joined New South Wales Government probably 3 or 4 years into that kind of customer. When I got there, there was, maybe we were sort of 50-50. There's a bunch of people that kind of, that embraced it, and there was still sort of maybe half the government that was kind of wriggling and uncomfortable. But by the time I left, it was not a conversation anymore, right? And I'm not saying that police ran around kind of, calling everyone customers. But that cultural mindset had really permeated, far and wide. And I think that's the power in the language. If there's a better word, you use it. But for us, it was a tool to sort of start that cultural shift, and that shift has had very, very, very far-reaching, I think, consequences for New South Wales, far beyond how friendly is the person that helps you or how nice is this digital experience to use. It's enabled when different agencies are trying to partner together and we get sort of stuck in our own sort of, views of what's matter. It pulls us up and kind of gets us focusing on outcome like few other tools we've ever come across. It's had, I think it's really helped bring policy and delivery closer and closer together to the point where more often than not now it feels almost indistinguishable around who's around the table. It's seen us kind of reaching for an understanding of actually what is the context and the person that we're trying to impact here, and not just making that kind of, with a blinkered view in an ivory tower. I think it's got us thinking about exclusion and inclusion and accessibility in a way that we never would have before. So for us, the language has been phenomenally powerful. If there's better language that culturally, is going to work better for yourselves, then please don't feel the need to use our language. But think about, what is that cultural shift you might be trying to make.
Right. Thanks, Damon. I think it was really interesting talk. It's great to hear sometimes hearing from somebody from outside New Zealand. You think you hear about things from a different perspective. That I found that really helpful, and I think it'd be really interesting talk for anybody who's trying to help New Zealand citizens, our customers across New Zealand. So thank you very much for that.